Hello YouTube, Bob here from 1 Foot in the Grave 08. Today, cutting more holes in the trailer. We're going to be installing a window in the door. The window is 24 tall by 15 wide, same as what I put in the front of the trailer. I wound up taking the door off last night. I also wanted to insulate the inside of the door, but since it's already filled with foam, I don't have to worry about the insulation, which is a good thing. Saves me a little bit of time, so we're going to be able to forego that and jump right into doing the window. What I did was I put the frame, and I kind of figured out about where I wanted the top of the window to start and the bottom of it to stop so that I could see out of it and anybody else standing up could see out of it fairly easily. And I kind of decided that about 12 inches down to the top of the window, so the outside of the frame right there is where I'm going to put it. So we're going to go ahead and mark a spot at the 12-inch mark. I'm going to lay down I'm just going to put a dot there so I can lay down some tape. I'll come back, measure it, put a square line across there, line the frame back up, make a mark where I need to put the tape on the bottom, put tape down there, figure out the side to side so we can get the window centered on the door, and then lay out more tape. I'll go around, trace around the outside of this so that I know exactly where I need to cut. Again, I'll stay just inside the line. And once I get where I know I need the frame to be, I will drill some holes, 1/8-inch holes, so I can tape it out on the other side of the door. What I might wind up doing is actually drilling holes through where the screws go that mount this trim ring to the actual window. Then I know how much distance out from that I have to go. I'll be able to line up the drill holes, the holes I drilled in this, through this frame. So if I do that, I can always put this down and then run a couple of screws through, or figure out some way to line this up on the outside where the screw holes line up. Then I'll be able to trace around the outside of the window, or probably around the frame again, and that way I'll know exactly where I have to cut on the outside as well. I think that'll be the easiest, especially using the screw holes that are already in this. I'll just make sure that the frame's oriented so that I have this joint, this piece where they joined it together on the same side, front, inside and outside. That way all the holes should line up. That should make it really close. And then with the gasket overlay, I don't think I'll have a problem. Well, that didn't go so good. When I was laying stuff out, when I put the window on there, it just didn't look right. The measurements from I was taking the measurements from the hinge side instead of taking them from the side that the latch is on. The problem was that the latch side is screwed down pretty tight. I had to bop it in just a little bit with a dead blow hammer to make sure that it was fully seated. And when I tried the same thing on the hinge side, because there's no screws other than at the corners holding the hinge side in, the hinge holds the aluminum up against the door frame. I'm going to start over, so let's give that a go. Hopefully this time I'll take all the measurements from the side with the latch just to make sure I'm there and I'm square. I tried fixing it and putting more tape down and just redoing my lines, but it was still off. It wasn't close. It was off by about 1/4 inch from top to bottom, maybe a little bit less than that. And visually you'd probably be able to see that. I could actually see it on the on the markings. So what I'm going to do this time is I'll go ahead and I'm actually going to put some two-sided tape that I have. I'll put the blue tape back down, and I'll get my center lines again, and then I'm going to use two-sided tape to put the window frame down on there so that when I draw around it and I draw where the screw holes are, I should be able to be a lot more accurate. It's just one of those things when you're doing something like this. You make your marks, you check, you double check, you triple check, and it was off. There's not much I could do about it. So I'm going to go ahead and start over. Hopefully this time it'll work out better. So just to make sure I've got the right measurement on the window, what I'm going to do is put my carpenter square on here, make sure that the window's nice and tight against both corners and square, which it pretty much is. It's off square just a little bit, not much, but if I put that on there, I get 15 1/8, and then if I flip it around, I'm right there again, right at 15 1/8. So that frame is pretty square. I checked the corner measurements on the door. It's off just a little bit, but again, that may be because of the, that's probably because of that part of the frame over there not being pulled up tight against the door. I checked the corners here and on the bottom off of this side, and everything seems to be square there, so it's got to be the far side that's off. So I got tape down. I'm going to go ahead and make my center lines. I'm going to use a much finer tip pen this time, and that way I make sure I get everything lined up a little bit better. I may go back over the thin lines around the frame with the Sharpie, or may just do that with the Sharpie. I'm not sure yet. I got to figure that part out. But so we're going to go ahead. We're going to start laying this out again, and start over. That's about all we can do, is start over and get everything right. Hopefully this time it works out. I'd really like to get cutting on this pretty soon. So, but I'm going to use that thin pen again to make the spots where the screw holes are, so that I can kind of center punch those, drill through, and line them up on the other side so that I can mark out the other side of the window when I get ready. Probably just going to cut through. I don't think I'm going to cut through the whole door at once. I might have to. We'll see, but I really rather not do it that way. As you can hear, people are out practicing for deer season with their guns, sighting them in. So you may hear some gunshots in the background. We're going to get started on that. There's no sense of me filming that whole thing. Again, I'm just going to measure in, because this is a 1/8 short. When I push in that other side tight, it's an 1/8 short of 35 inches. So I'm going to go a 1/16 under 17 1/2, and that's one reason why I'm using the fine tip Sharpie, is just so that when I make those marks, they're there. Again, I'll use two-sided tape. I'm going to put a little dot in each corner probably. That'll be why I have to use the thicker Sharpie to do that, because it'll sit up just a little bit. I think the fine point will go a little bit too far underneath the frame. So here we go again. I've actually got two Dremels, came in really handy. So right now I've got one set up with a radius cutter, and one set up that's going to do the straight lines. I wound up taking and finding, I knew that it was what the radius was, and I double checked it with the radius cutter, made some marks, punched a couple holes, or punched a hole in each corner so that I know exactly where that's at. I'm not going to use the cutoff wheels for this part. It's, it works vertically, not horizontally. So I have a titanium, I think, or tungsten, one of the two, I don't remember which one it is, cutter that is designed for this, and with aluminum it'll go through it pretty easy. So we're gonna get that set up, and we'll go from there. And there goes the dogs again. Squirrels, man, dogs and squirrels, I don't understand it. But anyway, we're gonna get set up. We're going to go ahead and cut the corners. On the inside, I'll make sure that they're just shy of the line, like almost right on the outside of the Sharpie line, so that should be okay. We're gonna cut that part out. I'll use a knife to cut through the styrofoam and try to get as much of the styrofoam out of there as I can, so I can make sure that I get the parts off and get the styrofoam out of there, so I can go ahead and make my double check my marks on the outside. Let's get going. Well, I went ahead and got the corners done. I used an awl to punch a hole that fits the pivot pin. For some reason I thought I hit time lapse and it didn't start recording. But as you can see, you drop the pin in, this comes around. It's a tungsten carbide bit is what it's listed as. This corner right here, for some reason I was off a little bit, so I had to extend it, but it's still within the lines. So I got all 4 corners cut. Again, I don't know why the time lapse didn't go, but it did. So I think it's time to figure out how I'm going to do the straight lines. I think what I'm going to do is because I was using this Dremel with the radius cutter, or with the circle cutter. I've got this one that's got like a router end on it. It's used, I think the kit was for doing drywall, where you put one of the rotary bits in and do the drywall. What I think I'm going to do is put the tungsten carbide bit in here, figure out what my offset is, and somehow put a straight edge on. I may just have to use 2-sided tape and then run that down. I don't want to take the chance of trying to control it and get a straight line unless I go quite a ways in from the lines, and I don't really want to do that. That tungsten carbide bit, I noticed that when I was doing the rest of this aluminum, even when I was running it on the fastest speed that I could, it still seemed like it was really grabby in the aluminum. I don't know what that is. I mean, the tungsten carbide, it's listed for steel and other metals. So again, no idea why that is, but I'm gonna go ahead, get set up for a time lapse, figure everything out there. You don't need to watch me try to do math like I've said before. You know, me and math usually involves monkeys and footballs. Here's what I did. I took and set the bit all the way down so that this was sitting flush. It's kind of hard to see in there, but I measured, I measured from the outside of the bit to the edge of the base, and it's 1.25 inches. And then I set, you might be able to see a little bit better that way, I set the bit just inside of the Sharpie line and double checked my measurements, and then took this yellow ruler and double stick taped it down, so that'll give me a good straight line. All right, I made the first cut, I made the second cut. I wanted to just kind of give an idea. I've got marks out here. I wound up going outside. I should have already known this. I did know it, I just didn't really pay attention to it. When I was cutting this one, every once in a while the bit would catch and it would try to kick out. And when it was kicking out, because of the direction of rotation, it was trying to kick into the good part of the door, the part I wanted to save. I was able to keep it from where it didn't get outside the Sharpie line, so I know I should still be good behind the flange. What I did down here, just as a test, was I put the ruler on the outside on the good part so that it wouldn't, if it did kick, it would kick into the aluminum here. I'm trying not to do a climb cut with it, which if you've ever used a router, you'd understand that it's going the same direction the bit's spinning. If you do that, sometimes it'll try to take off. So I'm trying to go the opposite way of what the blade is spinning, and I did that over here. It worked out really well. So we're gonna go ahead and get this ruler stuck down on our lines. right, we got it all cut inside the lines. Over here I was like right on the line, so I think that should still be all right. There's probably a better way to do this. There's probably a better way to do a lot of the stuff that I do, what I'm showing. I'm sure there's somebody out there screaming at their, screaming at their TV or their computer or whatever they're watching this on about how I could be doing this a lot better or a lot differently. But I do it the way I know how, the way I think is going to be best. And that's, that's what I got to do. And it looks like a couple of these corners are off just a little bit. Not much. Boy, oh boy. That's awesome. I was kind of worried a little bit. So it looks like I got to go in and do just a little bit of grinding on the corners. The edges look really good. Not sure how that side looks. That side looks good on that there. Yeah. All right, so let me get this mess cleaned up, vacuum up, go get the Dremel changed over to a sanding bit. I got a little bit here to do and a little bit in this one corner. Kind of make marks as to exactly where I have to do that. Where to start and stop. Actually, I'm going to come back to right there. And then right there to right there. We'll make the grind that out, and then we'll set this right down into place. But man, I'm super happy about that right now. Hopefully I can get the outside done. I don't know, it's starting to get dark. I'm not sure what time it is.